UFC Fight Night Columbus Blaydes versus Dvorak takes place this weekend, and I'm going to go through the entire card, starting with the early prelims, ending with the main event, giving my prediction and breakdown for every single fight on the card, and what an amazing card this is, stacked top to bottom. However, it's very, very difficult to predict, so bear with me here, guys. This is not the card you put all your money down on. This could be a rough one. In all honesty, we're going to start with the early prelim opener of Saldana versus Bruno Souza. I am going to go with Bruno Souza here over Saldana. Bruno Souza is not in any way amazingly good, but Saldana, not only is he not in any way amazingly good, he's also got some real, fundamental issues in terms of, takedown defense, strength for the featherweight division in general. He doesn't seem like a strong guy in any way whatsoever. He is going to have a little bit of reach here over Bruno Souza, so maybe he could make that work. But Melsik Bagdasaryan's an extremely good striker, and I would say a much, much, much better striker than Saldana. And Bruno Souza still kept it competitive in some of the moments in that fight now. Melsik did win that fight very clearly, don't get me wrong. But Bruno Souza had some moments, even had a very good third round for himself as well, where he looked quite competitive. Saldana has slowed down massively in his fights that we've seen. Bruno Souza seems to build into fights. I think he has the grappling advantage over Saldana here, and Saldana has shown an inability to work his way back up from bottom or even stuff takedowns in the first place at times. So I think Bruno Souza's a little bit more well-rounded. Maybe Saldana has more of a finishing potential in terms of a TKO, but I'm going to go with Bruno Souza here, getting the job done by 29-28, split decision win to open up the card in a very fun fight, and I think he wins it based on the last two rounds as Saldana starts to slow down. Moving on up the card, Aliaskhhab Khizriev versus a man by the name of Denis. Tiuliulin is actually his name. I'm not over-exaggerating that. That's actually his name. He stepped in place of Abus Magomedov. I was really looking forward to the initial matchup, but either way, we've got this one. Aliaskhhab Khizriev is the pick to make here, guys. Denis Tiuliulin has KO power, so there is a threat that maybe he could get a KO win here. But we're looking at a real bottom-of-the-barrel shoe-in on short notice here, and I think you've got to go Aliaskhhab Khizriev. We haven't seen him in a very long time, though, and he is fighting a guy with KO power, so there is a chance, obviously, that there could be an upset win here for Denis, we're going to call him. Denis the Menace could strike and take out Aliaskhhab Khizriev, because he has been out of the cage for about a year and a half since the Contender Series when he won. He hasn't been able to get a matchup. Wellington Turman pulled out. I believe even Abus Magomedov pulled out of a fight with him as well. And that now has been rescheduled for this card, and that's now not happened again. So he's had a lot of matchups fall through. I feel quite bad for him, but I do believe he's going to go out there, get the job done. He's just come into his prime. This is the best he's ever going to be. And if he doesn't get KO'd in the first round, I think he's definitely going to win this one by decision. He's more well-rounded. He's better in general. He's fought better competition. His opponent's just not that good and has fought a bunch of cans. And every single step up in his career, other than the last one that he had where he won against an 11-2 opponent, which is a good win. Every other step up in competition in his career has always failed. He goes against an 0-0 guy, an 0-3 guy, and then a 4-0 guy, and he loses. It's just rinse and repeat. He's 33 years of age, taking it on short notice. I've got to go Aliaskhhab Khizriev, getting this one done by, I'll say, submission in the first round or something like that. Moving on, up the card, Matheus Nicolau versus David Dvorak. No idea why this is on the early prelims. This one should be on the main card, but either way, I'm going to go with Matheus Nicolau over David Dvorak. I think I'm going to pick him as an underdog here. I think he's a little bit more well-rounded in terms of what he can do to win a fight. I think he can implement grappling to a little bit of a higher degree than a David Dvorak can. And if David Dvorak secretly can, good for him. We haven't quite seen it yet. But as far as I'm concerned, a close decision loss to Manel Kape, to me, is better than a close decision win over Jordan fucking Espinosa. Way better. Manel Kape had a close fight with Alejandro Pantoja. Took that fight, I believe, not on a full camp in his debut in the UFC. He was up against it massively. They weren't expecting him to win. He had a very close fight with Alejandro Pantoja. Recently, he's doing amazing in the flyweight division as well. And Matheus Nicolau, he lost, I think, just barely based on, a couple of knees in round 3. But take away those knees in round 3. Nicolau beats Manel Kape, and he's a very good fighter. He's very well-rounded. Tim Elliott handled Jordan Espinosa for 3 rounds. David Dvorak had a reasonably competitive fight with him over 3 rounds as well. Matheus Nicolau beat Tim Elliott over the 3 rounds. So this is what I'm talking about here. Food chain of the flyweight division. We're starting to realise how good Manel Kape and Tim Elliott are. And they're looking like 2 really good wins, depending on how you saw those decisions. Razor close contests with really good competition in the flyweight division. So I think Matheus Nicolau's going to get this one done. Plus, he's been more active as well, so I think he definitely gets this one done. He fought in October, I believe, in his last matchup against Tim Elliott, and David Dvorak, I believe, fought last May, or something like that, against Juan Camilo Ronderos. Like, it wasn't even a great opponent, shoo-in on short notice, got choked out in the first round, well done. I just do believe that Matheus Nicolau's going to get this one done. And let's not forget, Matheus Nicolau is 29 years of age, the same age as David Dvorak. He's not an older guy where Dvorak's this up-and-comer. Like, Nicolau had a couple of losses to really good opponents, bounced back, worked his way through a lot of good competition opponents. Now he's back in the UFC. He had a good run of opponents when he first was in the UFC. I believe he fought guys like Louis Smolka and stuff like that back in 2016. So I like Matheus Nicolau here, more experience, better opponents, better performances against those opponents. I'm going to go with Matheus Nicolau as an underdog over David Dvorak. I don't know why he's an underdog. I think this would be evens. But either way, Nicolau gets it done. Moving on up the card, Chris Gutierrez versus Dana Batgerel. I'm going to go with Dana Batgerel here by KO. I really am. I was pretty big on Chris Gutierrez, but I watched his last fight recently against Felipe Colares. Felipe Colares is so terrible at striking. You shouldn't make it look close in any way. Now, fair play, you did win that fight clearly, and it shouldn't have been a split decision. You should have won that fight 29-28. But it was 29-28. Now, I understand. You're taking on good UFC caliber opponents, but Felipe Colares strikes like an idiot, in my opinion. And he was able to land some decently good shots on Chris Gutierrez. And that is a red flag when it comes to Dana Batgerel. I mean, the win over Guido Canetti is looking pretty good in hindsight. You know what I mean? Like, I can only imagine Brandon Davis going on a 5-fight win streak and making Batgerel look even better. But Dana Batgerel is dangerous. He's got power in his hands. Massive power advantage over Gutierrez. There is a little bit of an unknown as to where, you know, he has had some decision losses to some less than good competition opponents as the rounds have gone on to a decision. So maybe Gutierrez could win this one by decision. But I think I'm going to call Dana Batgerel to catch him on the chin and put him away because, yeah, Felipe Colares was landing too many good shots on you, man. And it was a good performance by you that you clearly won, but a little bit too competitive for my liking. And if he can land those shots, I believe Dana Batgerel is going to land big shots as well and put him away in the first round by TKO. Moving on up the card, Sara McMann versus Karol Rosa. I'm going to go with Karol Rosa over Sara McMann. Sara McMann is 41. Yep, 41. She's good, though. She's really good at grappling and stuff like that. Like, she's a good grappler. She's a capable grappler. Like, there's no doubt about that. She's a very good grappler, and she does deserve respect. But Sara McMann has not been in the cage for quite some time. The start of 2021, Karol Rosa's been pretty active recently, and she's been consistent as well. And yeah, I just don't think Sara McMann's been doing too good recently. Even her performance against, Lena Landsberg, like, that's what we're going to count as a good win. Like, I understand Karol Rosa hasn't had too many great wins either, but at the same time, I am going to side with Karol Rosa here. I think she's looked very, very consistent in her last performances. She's the shorter fighter here, who's younger, more athletic, and also has a reach advantage over her opponent, an 1.5 inch reach advantage, which is big when you're a shorter opponent. So I think she's going to be able to stall this one out against a cage, maybe get controlled on the ground for a bit, controlled against a cage for a little bit, but she's very good at working in the cage, very good at landing little total strikes to make sure that she's seen as the ahead fighter in those positions. So I'm going to trust in Karol Rosa. She's very fundamentally sound. She doesn't swing like a maniac. Like, if this was like an Agapova at bantamweight coming up, maybe I would hazard that Sara McMann could get a takedown and make things happen, but Karol Rosa is very technically sound, doesn't leave herself out of position, so I don't think she's going to lose this one. I'm going to go with Karol Rosa, 30-27, unanimous decision. Every round is close. Moving on up the card, Marc Diakiese versus Viacheslav Borschev. I'm going to go with Viacheslav Borschev over Marc Diakiese, and I'm going to go with Viacheslav Borschev by late first round TKO. I'm going to call another first round TKO here. I think Borshev's going to crack him a couple of times early. Diakiese's going to start cracking Borschev back a couple of times as well. Diakiese's going to try shooting, maybe get a takedown. Borschev works his way back up to his feet. They're against the cage. They separate. Borschev takes the center of the cage. He puts Diakiese against the end of the cage. Rips a couple body shots. Rips a couple of big shots upstairs. I just think he's a little bit better in the pocket than Marc Diakiese. Diakiese does have some good performances here and there, but getting rocked by that jab off Rafael Alves and getting put down by it doesn't speak well for your chin moving forward in your career. He's taken a lot of damage so far, had his wars in his UFC career as well. He always has the opportunity to maybe land that one big shot, but I don't think the grappling threat is there as much as it was for Dakota Bush. Even if he does have better grappling than Dakota Bush, it was kind of assumed that Dakota Bush was just going to shoot takedowns all the time, and it made Borschev not look the best in that performance because he was constantly worrying about the takedowns. But against Diakiese, I don't think he has to worry too much, and I think he'll catch him and put him away in the first round. Moving on up the card, Neil Magny versus Max Griffin. Again, why is it on the prelims? I have no idea. But I'm going to go with Neil Magny over Max Griffin. I can sense a Max Griffin underdog, but I can't pick it because I don't know how to justify it. I'm just sensing things. I am sensing things, and I'm sensing that Neil Magny is going to beat Max Griffin, but there's a massive chance that Max Griffin could go out there against an inactive Magny, let's not forget. Land a couple of great calf kicks early on, and Magny can't walk for the rest of the round. However, Max Griffin has had some very close contests with people that I don't consider to be great fighters, in all honesty. He has won those contests, and he has had good performances against them, but Condit, if you're going to be like a big breakout guy who's going to make it towards the rankings, dominate Condit a little bit more impressively than he did. Like, he won clearly, but it was still like one of them kind of performances, you know. He beat Kenan Song. Kenan Song hasn't fought since. That was at the start of 2021. He also beat Ramiz Brahimaj, who we now found out is a little bit overrated a bit because of the old Court McGee situation. Before that, though, just before that, he lost a decision to Alex Oliveira, which now doesn't look the best because Oliveira's on a massive losing streak now. So there's just a couple of red flags in Max Griffin's record that I'd like to have seen performed differently if I'm going to pick him against a ranked opponent in Neil Magny here. Neil Magny beat Li Jingliang. He's beat some very good opponents. Anthony Rocco Martin was another similar up-and-coming welterweight that had a couple of wins put together. And he can just find a way to win. If it's holding Max Griffin against the cage, it's holding Max Griffin against the cage. He's got a reach advantage. He's eager to get back in there. If he wins this one, he's going to be in a good position to make a good call out in the welterweight division. So, yeah, I'm going to go with Neil Magny, edging his way out to a decision win, 29-28 over Max Griffin. Griffin gets around maybe where he does more damage or maybe drops Neil Magny suddenly, but Magny's going to win the fight overall using control time against the cage, shots to the body, knees to the body in general, maybe a couple of takedowns himself, and keeping things at range on the feet as well. So I'm going to go with Neil Magny by decision there. Moving on up the card to the headliner of the prelims, Jennifer Maia versus Manon Fiorot. Again, no idea why this is on the prelims, but I guess some of them have to be on the prelims just by default. But I'm going to go with Manon Fiorot over Jessica Eye or Jennifer Maia. I feel like it's a massive risk, and no one's talking about it as a massive risk. Manon Fiorot gets her next can-fed opponent that she's easily going to destroy. Jennifer Maia got down Shevchenko for a round. And whether or not it was from Shevchenko's failed takedown herself rather than takedown of Jennifer Maia, she still has decently good grappling. But in a three-rounder, I think Fiorot showed in her last fight she can dig deep when she needs to against a good contender. Maia's a little bit over the hill now in her career, 33 years of age. I know Fiorot's 32, but they have very different levels of MMA mileage. I'm sure you can agree. Fiorot's basically took no damage outside of that last fight where she took a couple of big body shots. And Jennifer Maia's had a lot of damage in her career, so I'm definitely going to go with Manon Fiorot here. It's just if her takedown defense holds up. I believe it's going to. She had good takedown defense in her last fight, and she's a physical specimen as well, so just in all odds that she doesn't have the best takedown defense for this fight, she's still physically strong, so maybe she can make up for some things. I'm going to go with Manon Fiorot over Jennifer Maia. I think she gets it done. Again, by decision, 30-27. I'd love to see some finishes, but I think this is going to be a decision fight, 30-27. Manon Fiorot, pieces are up, and the power difference is going to be so much as to where Maia doesn't want to really press in and put the energy on Manon Fiorot to try and make her gas out. So I think the Manon Fiorot's going to comfortably cruise with power shots to a unanimous decision win. Moving on up the card to the main card. Ilir Latifi versus Aleksei Oleinik. I'm going to go with Ilir Latifi over Aleksei Oleinik. Oleinik's done, I think, now. I love Oleinik. Oleinik's one of my favourite fighters. He's been around forever. 59-16 is an absolutely ridiculous record when you've been doing it as long as this guy has. He's coming off a very big win, or loss, sorry, to Sergey Spivak, which was a very close decision, by the way. So, you know, pretty close decision to a guy like Sergey Spivak, who's a very good fighter himself. Before that, he got KO'd by Chris Dorcas. Before that, he got KO'd by Derek Lewis badly with back-of-the-head shots as well, but they completely ignored it. He took a damage in the sort of scrap against Fabricio Verdum. He's had his losses in his career, man. And I think it's finally time where we're seeing him not really have the same dominance in the areas that he's good at in terms of the grappling. We saw that against Spivak. And also on the feet, his chin just isn't as trustworthy as a guy like Ilir Latifi, in my opinion. Even though Latifi has been KO'd himself, I'm going to trust Latifi at heavyweight. He just beat Tanabosa. Close fight, don't get me wrong, but Tanabosa. I think Tanabosa could beat an Oleinik. So Latifi looked good against him, controlled him in 2 of the rounds on the ground. Even if he didn't do too much damage, just being able to control Tanabosa on the ground is no small feat. So I think I'm going to go with Ilir Latifi getting this one done by decision win. I'll say 29-28. Maybe Oleinik makes a bit of a comeback in the third with cardio. But Ilir Latifi, I believe, is going to win this one in the scrambles, on the feet. And I think he's just going to be like, as Oleinik gets back up from a scramble, he knees him in the head and then uppercuts him. Like, it's just going to be a lot more viciousness coming from Ilir Latifi's side. I like his finishing potential more. It's just if he gasses out, there could be a problem. But Oleinik can gas out as well. So I'm going to go with Ilir Latifi getting this one done. Moving on to another fight on the main card, which is Matt Brown versus Bryan Barberena. Very good matchup. I'm going to go with Matt the Immortal Brown, my boy. I think he gets this one done by KO. In the second round, I'm going to say. Second round TKO for Matt Brown. He cracks Barberena on the chin. Maybe Barberena slightly edges out the first round. Then he starts feeling himself and starts to get a little bit tricky and floaty around and switching stances and stuff. Matt Brown steps through with a big overhand, puts him away. I see a Matt Brown finish here. I see a big Matt Brown second round KO finish. Just beat Diego Lima in the second round. I like Bryan Barberena, but him and Diego Lima will probably go to war for 3 rounds. I'm going to trust in Matt Brown's power being the difference here. Barberena's got good power, but against guys like Jason Witt, and he had a scrappy fight with him, a very scrappy fight with him. Like, Bryan Barberena's had his wars in his career. So has Matt Brown, but I feel like he's found a bit of a resurgence recently. So I'm going to pick him against Bryan Barberena by KO in the second round. Moving on up the card, Askar Askarov versus Kai Kara-France. I'm going to go with Kai Kara-France. I think this man has the best takedown defense and jiu-jitsu defense in the entirety of the flyweight division. Now, I know he got caught in a guillotine after being flying knee rocked by an opponent. He got caught in a guillotine. I understand that. Things happen. But I am going to go with Kai Kara-France here. He got caught in that guillotine by Brandon Royval after eating that flying knee. But his jiu-jitsu defense is still really good. Against Rodrigo Bontorin, he showed such levels of patience on the ground to fight the choke, to find his way out of danger. And I feel like he's going to really come into his own here against Askar Askarov, who is good, but couldn't ground out Alejandro Pantoja without problems. Couldn't do it to Brandon Moreno. So there are like a level of grappler at flyweight that already exist that can stop Askar Askarov. They can stop Askar Askarov. He arguably should have lost the Brandon Moreno fight. In my opinion, he should have lost that fight to Brandon Moreno. It shouldn't be a draw. He should no longer be undefeated. He's very good. He's been out for a bit. Kara-France has got a bunch of momentum right now, which I really like because he beat Cody Garbrandt, and before that he beat Rodrigo Bontorin. He's got a bunch of momentum. He's just toppling it all over into each other. I think he's going to come out there switched on early in the first round. I think Askarov's going to shoot some takedowns. I think Kai's going to stuff him. And I'm going to go with another KO win for Kai Kara-France. I picked him twice in a row now by KO. I'm going to trust him again to get a KO win against Askar Askarov, who I think is going to start to leave his chin open a little bit once his takedowns don't work out so well. So I think Kara France maybe gets his back taken, fights out of it. Askarov's got body lock against a cage. Kara France fights out of it, knee to the body, they separate. And then he lands the big blow that puts away Askarov for good and spoils that undefeated record. Kara France gets it done as the underdog. Moving on, up the card, Joanne Calderwood versus Alexa Grasso. I'm going to go with Alexa Grasso here. I just watched the two of them fight. Like, she's way more technical than Joanne Calderwood. Don't see any way around it. I'm so tired, by the way, guys. I don't know if you can tell. I don't see any way around it. Alexa Grasso's a way better boxer. She's got way nicer hands, way better defense, way better footwork, better chin at this point in her career as well, better hunger levels at this point in her career as well. Joanne Calderwood just got KO'd in her last fight a couple of months ago. Why are you turning around so quickly? This is what happens when you ruin a career. So I'm going to go with Alexa Grasso getting a submission win, just like Taylor Santos, maybe hurting Joanne Calderwood a couple of times on the feet and then cinching up like a Darce choke maybe this time, because I've seen Grasso go for that a couple of times. So maybe she gets a Darce choke on a shooting Joanne Calderwood, who's been rocked on the feet by good combinations. Joanne Calderwood, Lauren Murphy swings like a spastic, and she made it really close with you. I don't think she won that fight against you, but she made it really close to where it could have been a robbery. So yeah, I'm going to have to go with Alexa Grasso. She's way better. It's just, can she keep up with the volume and striking volume of Joanne Calderwood over the 3 rounds? I guess we'll find out, but I'm going to trust in Alexa Grasso getting this one done. Moving on up the card, Curtis Blaydes versus Chris Daukaus. I'm going to go with Curtis Blaydes here. I think he gets this one done by second round arm triangle submission is what I'm going to go with for Curtis Blaydes. I just think he's going to be too big on the ground for Chris Daukaus. I think they're both going to be standing a little bit early on. Daukaus lands a couple of good punches early on. Curtis Blaydes lands a couple of good punches early on. They trade leg kicks back and forth. Blaydes seem to do a little bit more damage. There's a lot more weight behind them. Daukaus has seemed to like bother Blaydes more than hurt him. I think there's going to be too much of a size difference. Curtis Blaydes is an athlete at his size as well. He didn't look the best against Rosenstruik, but Rosenstruik has been improving his takedown defense and actually showed decent takedown defense at some moments in the Overeem fight. So I definitely believe he's got a solid chance of winning this one, Curtis Blaydes, and I think he will go out there and win. I hate the 4-1 odds. It makes it pointless to bet on these things. There's no point betting now because they've done it 4-1 odds for no fucking reason, but either way, Curtis Blaydes gets this one done. Daukaus, I know, is a black belt in jiu-jitsu, but I ain't seen none of it yet. So I'm going to trust that Curtis Blaydes can get on top of him, make something happen, and send Chris Daukaus down to lightweight because he's just not got the physical stature and imposure that he needs to take on some of these top dogs. Blaydes is a big guy. I think he's going to be pretty calm in the early round here against Daukaus because of how small Daukaus looks, how unintimidating he looks as well. He's got fast hands, but I can see Blaydes getting a double leg and making it hell for him, eventually getting an arm triangle in round 2. Like and subscribe. Thank you for watching. Those are my full card predictions. I barely got through that. I'm on limited sleep, but I did it anyway because I'm a fucking G. Like and subscribe. Click that button up there. Toodle pip. I'll see you later. Goodbye.